You ever notice how people only care when there's a countdown? Tick-tock. Suddenly, they're all ears. Suddenly, the screen matters. Suddenly, it's urgent. Not because the truth changed. No. Just because someone slapped a little deadline on it. One day, that's all. After that, poof, gone. Deleted. Erased like it never existed. And that gets their attention. Funny, isn't it? It's funny, isn't it? You can wave a truth in front of people for years, paint it on billboards, shout it from rooftops, and they'll walk right past it like it's wallpaper. Boring. Background noise. But the second you say, "This is your last chance," suddenly they see it. Suddenly their eyes light up, their hands start shaking, their heart skips a beat, not because they understand it any better, not because they care more, but because now it might disappear. That's the trick. People don't treasure what lasts. They worship what's dying. They don't cherish the constant. They crave the collapsing. You give them a forever and they waste it. You give them a countdown and they'll crawl through glass just to get a glimpse before the clock hits zero. It's not the truth they love. It's the threat of losing it. The fear that maybe, just maybe, they miss something important. And nothing messes with the human brain more than the idea that they're about to be locked out forever. It's pathetic, it's poetic, it's You ever see how people treat sunsets? Every single day that sun dips under the horizon. But only when the sky's on fire, only when they know it's almost over, do they look up, do they pause, do they feel something. Not because the sun changed, but because it was leaving. Scarcity, the oldest drug in the world. People will ignore a treasure in their hands, but mourn the one they never reached in time. It's not the value that changes, it's the ticking clock wrapped around it. So when you tell them this will be gone tomorrow, that's when they finally show up. That's when they click. That's when they watch, not because they're curious, but because they're terrified they'll miss what everyone else saw. And that fear, that ugly, twitching panic, that's what gets them moving. Not passion, not purpose, just the sick little voice whispering, "What if you're left out?" People don't chase truth, they chase urgency. They don't want knowledge, they want now. You could hand them wisdom on a silver plate, but they won't touch it unless you add a label, "Expires in 24 hours. That's what makes it taste better. The lie that if they don't eat it now, it'll rot forever. Suddenly, it's not a choice anymore, it's a mission, a last-minute race against time to prove they're not as asleep as they were 5 minutes ago. And maybe that's the real joke. Maybe we don't need to make the truth prettier, we just need to threaten to take it away. That's the only way to make them care. Not by showing them the light, but by showing them the dark that comes when the light's gone. Not by lifting them, but by pulling the rug and watching them scramble to stand up before the floor disappears. They think they're too smart for manipulation, but put a timer on the screen and watch how fast their morals start melting. Watch how fast they go from skeptical to obsessed, from lazy to locked in, from maybe later to I need this right now. You didn't teach them anything new, you just made them afraid of missing it. That's all it takes. One little illusion of loss, and suddenly the thing they ignored yesterday becomes gold. It's not the truth that changes, it's the frame around it. The blood-red numbers counting down, the breathless urgency in your voice, the heavy silence that says, if you blink, it's gone. That's what pulls them in. Not the message, the threat. People don't value the eternal. They don't even recognize it. They want what vanishes. They want what slips through their fingers. They need the chase, the adrenaline, the ache of almost losing it. That's what makes them pay attention. That's what makes it feel real. Not because it is, but because they're told they can't have it for long. Isn't it wild? You could have a message louder than a siren, more honest than a confession, more urgent than a fire alarm, but no one hears it until you dress it up in panic. You could tell them the truth in the most beautiful way, in the most brutal way, in the most obvious way, and they'll scroll right past like it's a cat video. Nothing. Dead eyes, glazed brains, but give it an expiration date, wrap it in a warning like, this will be gone in 24 hours. Now they're frothing at the mouth. Now they care. Now it's worth something. Because people don't want to be educated, they want to be stimulated. They don't want information, they want intrigue. The moment you whisper that something is forbidden or disappearing or exclusive, the truth becomes delicious. And not because it changed, not because it got deeper, just because you said, you don't get to keep this. It's like everyone's walking around deaf until someone slaps a countdown on the truth. Then, boom, ears wide open, heart pounding. Suddenly their attention has value. Suddenly what they ignored yesterday is a matter of life and death. Not because they believe in it, but because someone else might see it first, might use it first, might share it before they even press play. You could tell the same story 100 times and they'll yawn, but tell them this is the last time it'll be told. And they're hooked. They're begging for more. Why? Because people don't chase clarity. They chase scarcity. They're addicted to the idea that something could vanish, and they won't be the ones holding it when it does. They don't care about truth, they care about timing. They care about being in the room before the doors slam shut. They want the secret, not the story. They want the drama, not the depth. And the only way to get them to listen is to make them believe they're about to lose something they never cared about to begin with. It's pathetic, and it's perfect, because it works every single time. You want people to open their eyes? Don't tell them to wake up. Just tell them they're about to miss the only thing that matters. Show them a countdown. Give them a threat. Wrap the truth in urgency like a time bomb, and watch how quickly they drop everything to listen, not because they're curious, but because they're scared, because fear moves faster than faith, because FOMO is louder than fact. People are wired for reaction, not reflection. That's the secret. They don't pause to consider, they jump to catch. And if you want them to grab hold of something real, something raw, you better make it feel like it's slipping away fast. Not politely, not patiently, but violently. Like a train leaving the station and they're still tying their shoe. This is why warnings work better than wisdom. This is why a red blinking light gets more attention than a calm voice of reason. Because most people don't think until it's too late. They don't act unless the ceiling is cracking, the clock is screaming, and someone's telling them, you only get one shot. And even then, it's not about the message, it's about the moment, the tension, the risk. They'll remember how it made them feel, not what it tried to say. They'll chase the rush, not the lesson. Because the thrill of the ticking clock is more seductive than the weight of the truth. They ignored the truth when it was free. They'll worship it now that it's fleeting. You could be giving away gold and they wouldn't notice. But tell them you're burying it at midnight and suddenly they're all treasure hunters, not because they believe it has value, but because you told them they're about to lose it. That's all it takes. One little threat, one little last chance, and the crowd gathers like moths to a burning building. It's not that people don't care, it's that they won't care unless you scare them into it, unless you corner them with the idea that the door is about to slam shut and they're on the wrong side of it. That's when they sprint, that's when they panic, that's when they finally hit play. They don't move for logic, they don't rise for reason. You show them facts, figures, flawless lines of thought, and all you get is blank stares and polite shrugs. But add a spark, urgency, and suddenly they're alive. Suddenly they're pacing, tapping, clicking, gasping. Not because they understand the meaning, but because they feel the burn. You want to crack a frozen soul open? Light a fire under their feet. Make the room feel like it's collapsing. Then, and only then, do they act. You tell them something matters, and they'll nod. Yeah, sure, maybe later. You tell them it matters right now or never, and they twitch like rats hearing the final creak of a trap. They'll lunge, they'll scramble, they'll feel. And feelings, oh, feelings are currency. Cold truths are cheap. Urgency? Urgency is expensive. Urgency gets results. Not because people finally understand, but because they finally realize they're out of time. They wait their whole lives, wait for the right mood, the right moment, the right sign, like the world is some gentle machine waiting politely for them to be ready. It's not. The world doesn't wait. And when you shove that truth in their face, when you say, this isn't here tomorrow, their brain panics. It stops thinking. It decides. No more calculating. No more sitting on fences. Just raw, unfiltered reaction. That's how urgency slices through the noise. Not with words, but with a pulse, a feeling in the chest that says something's happening, something's shifting, and if I blink, I'll miss it. That feeling, that's more powerful than 1,000 explanations. That's how you break the loop of hesitation, the constant back and forth of should I, shouldn't I. You take away the option to wait, and suddenly the choice becomes crystal clear. They don't chase what's true, they chase what's leaving. That's the real engine. That's what pulls the herd, not wisdom, not clarity, pressure. Make it urgent and it becomes sacred. Make it scarce and it becomes holy. People worship what might disappear before they understand it. That's what urgency does. It steals their time and sells it back to them wrapped in panic. You ever see a crowd at the last second? It's chaos. Eyes wide, breath short, hands everywhere. Not because they believe in what they're doing, but because they're afraid of being left behind. It's not passion, it's desperation. And desperation makes excellent listeners. You don't have to convince them, you just have to tell them the doors are closing. That's it. One sentence. Boom. Full attention. They'll run toward things they ignored yesterday. Cling to messages they mocked last week. Not because they've grown, not because they've changed, just because now it feels like a window's slamming shut and their fingers are inches away. You want to wake a sleeping world? Don't knock gently. Set a timer. Watch how fast they open their eyes when they think it's almost too late. Urgency is a knife. Not elegant, not delicate, but it cuts fast and deep. It bypasses doubt, slices through laziness, forces a reaction. They don't need to be convinced, they need to be cornered. And the ticking clock? That's the sound of the corner getting smaller, tighter, closer. They'll claw at the walls if it means they don't have to live with the regret of missing the moment. They don't follow the truth, they follow the feeling. And urgency is the most addictive feeling of all. It's the rush of the fall, the thrill of the almost, the sting of maybe never. You can whisper the truth for a decade and be ignored, but shout, you've got one day and they'll tear down the door to hear it. Not because they trust you, but because something in their chest just screamed, go. And that scream, that's what moves them. That's what makes them leap before they look. Not the message, the moment. You make the moment feel like a spark on dry paper, and suddenly they care. Suddenly they believe. Suddenly they become the version of themselves they always said they would be someday. But now there is no someday. There's only now or never. It's not the thing they're after. It's the threat of losing it. You can dangle diamonds in front of their faces, pure, perfect, shining, and they'll still hesitate, they'll squint, they'll question, they'll calculate, but whisper that someone else might take it, or worse, that it might disappear completely. And suddenly their hands are faster than their thoughts. Greedy, desperate. Now it matters. Now it's priceless. Why? Because nothing screams, pay attention, louder than the fear of being left out. That's the secret nobody talks about. Not desire, not ambition, scarcity. The illusion that something is rare, that it's slipping through the cracks, that someone else might get it before you. And that illusion, that's what fuels movements. That's what gets people to jump out of their chairs, throw money, make calls, click faster than their conscience can scream, wait. Just the value they see, it's the vanishing. The now or never madness that hijacks their mind and drags them down a path they'd never take if they had time to think. Because people don't act from wisdom, they act from fear. Fear of regret, fear of missing out, fear of not having what everyone else suddenly wants. And once that fear kicks in, oh, they'll justify anything. It must be important, or it wouldn't be going away. It must be powerful, or they wouldn't be hiding it. It must be true, or they wouldn't want to delete it. Lies become legends when you coat them in secrecy and threaten to take them away. And you know what's worse? They know it's a trick. They know they're being played, but they still fall for it. Because the idea that you might miss your shot, your one fleeting shot, is more powerful than self-respect, more powerful than logic, more powerful than the truth itself. That's what scarcity does. It bends minds, breaks reason, rewrites urgency into a kind of religion. People chase things not because they love them, but because they're afraid someone else might love them first. That's the sting, that's the game, that's the poison they drink willingly, not because it tastes good, but because it makes them feel something, makes them feel alive. You put a limited time sticker on a truth, and suddenly it glows. You tell them not everyone gets to see this, and now it's a treasure, not because it is, but because they were told they might not be chosen. And oh, how they hate not being chosen. Scarcity makes everything sexy, everything sacred, everything worth burning for. You want to sell an idea? Don't prove it's right. Just prove it might be rare, might be hidden, might be deleted in the morning. Then watch as the crowd loses its mind. Watch as people who didn't care yesterday suddenly become prophets today. Not because the idea changed, but because the clock did. It's about timing, not truth. About pressure, not proof. You don't need to say more. You just need to say less and make them think It's the last time they'll ever hear it. That's what makes the blood rush. That's what makes their heart jump. Not what you say, what you imply. The possibility that they're one breath away from missing the one thing that might have changed everything. They'll tell themselves it's about curiosity or growth or destiny, but it's none of those things. It's survival instinct. Dressed up in digital clothes, fear of being out of the loop, fear of watching the door close from the wrong side. They don't want the truth. They want the ticket, the access, the membership badge that proves they saw it before it vanished. That's the game now, not exclusivity. And when you sell them that feeling, that panic, you don't have to sell anything else. They'll buy it, they'll beg for it, they'll build shrines around it even if they don't understand it. Because in their mind they got it just in time. And that's worth more than anything you could explain, anything you could prove. Because scarcity, even fake scarcity, wraps an idea in gold. They don't want the truth. They want the thrill of nearly missing it. The rush of being inches from loss and just barely making it in time. They never look when the world is calm. They never listen when the lights are bright and the path is clear. You tell them the truth on a sunny day, and they laugh like it's a joke, but dim the lights, shake the ground, make the walls feel like they're closing in. And now they care. Now they crawl. Now they cling to every syllable like it's their last breath, because the truth only sounds important when danger is breathing down their neck. You see, people are creatures of chaos, but they hide in routine. They build neat little boxes, fill them with predictable things, jobs, schedules, likes, follows, rules, silence. But deep down, they crave the opposite. They crave that jolt, that rattle, that alarm bell, something to shatter the numbness, something that says, "Wake up, idiot, the clock is running out." You try giving them inspiration gently, they yawn. You scream it through a megaphone and light it on fire, they applaud. That's the trick, isn't it? You make the truth look like a bomb. You wrap it in danger, urgency, expiration dates. Because the only time they believe something matters is when you make them think it might be ripped away before they understand it. You're not trying to convince them of anything. You're just trying to shock them into finally noticing. Because awareness doesn't grow naturally anymore. It's forced through fear, through tension, through the illusion of a vanishing chance. They don't care if it's good. They care if it's almost gone. They'll scroll past genius 1,000 times, but put a countdown on mediocrity, and now it's gold. Now it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Now they're listening, nodding, screenshotting like it's sacred, not because they believe, but because they think they're not supposed to have it for long. That's what moves them. That's what's the forbidden, the fleeting, the fire on the fuse. It's not about delivering a message, it's about timing the explosion. You give them too much time and they'll dilute it, debate it, forget it, but give them just one shot, just one blink before it's gone, and suddenly they feel chosen, special, important, because most of them don't want truth. They want moments, and nothing creates a moment faster than the threat of deletion. You ever notice how they chase drama like it's enlightenment? They'll ignore wisdom served on a silver tray, but feed them chaos with a ticking clock and they'll devour it. The irony? They don't even know what they're looking for. They just know they don't want to miss something, anything. That fear of missing out is stronger than the need to understand what they're chasing. And that fear, it's not always loud. Sometimes it's subtle, a gut twist, a quiet itch, that voice saying, "You'll regret skipping this." So they watch, not out of trust, not out of belief, but out of dread. Dread that everyone else might see something they didn't. Dread that the moment will pass and they'll be stuck with the same empty questions they started with. And that dread, oh, it's a beautiful motivator because it makes even silence sound profound. You give people truth without tension. They file it away like a receipt. But give them truth with a fuse lit underneath, and suddenly it's a revelation. And it doesn't matter if the message is old, recycled, obvious. If they think they might lose it, now they love it. Now they see it as rare, powerful, divine. Not because it is, but because you told them it won't be around long enough to be comfortable. That's what scarcity does. It makes even the dullest spark feel like lightning. It's not the content, it's the clock. People aren't wired for steady learning. They're wired for crisis, for pressure. And in the middle of that pressure, even the softest whisper becomes a scream. That's when they finally wake up. When you throw a countdown in their face and say, "This is it, blink and it's gone." So now they hang on every second, not because they care, but because they're afraid not to. Because the moment you told them something would disappear, it became more real than anything that was ever permanent. Scarcity doesn't prove value, it creates it. Even if the thing was worthless to begin with, wrap it in urgency, dress it in panic, and suddenly people treat it like salvation.